If everybody could please take your seats, we'll get started in 30 seconds. If everybody could please take your seats, we'll get started in 30 seconds. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Gilbert Town Council meeting for Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. We would like to call this meeting to order and start with our invocation. We have student pastor Jeremiah Dennis of Redeemer Bible Church. Good evening.
Good evening. Why don't you pray with me? Father, we thank you for the gift of government for which we're all here this evening. You tell us in the Bible that all authority comes from you, and so you've given us these leaders for the benefit and blessing of the community. And we're grateful for them, Lord, in the way that they serve. You command us as well to pray for them as our leaders. And so we ask that you would give them wisdom and discernment as they make decisions that affect us and our families. Lord, may they walk in integrity and honor. May they promote the well-being of the whole community, and may they derive tremendous joy from the service and sacrifice that they make. And we ask that they would honor you, Father, in all that they do. In the name of your Son, Jesus, amen.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We appreciate it. Now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance led by our Vice Mayor.
Please rise and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, can we please have the roll call, Chevelle?
Mayor Bridget Peterson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Amy Yentes.
Here.
Councilmember Scott Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Lauren Hendricks. Councilmember Jan Kaprowski.
Here.
Councilmember Scott September.
Here.
And Councilmember Kathy Tilkey.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you, Chevelle. Now we will move into communications from citizens. Vice Mayor, if you could handle that, please.
Yes, we have a full audience, obviously, tonight. We value citizens' comments and input. Oh, they're still coming. Anyone wishing to speak tonight must fill out one of these forms. I think most of you found them. Indicate whether you want to speak on it. When you come to the podium, we'll ask that you speak your name and where you live, your residence. This portion of the agenda only concerns matters of interest related to town government that are not printed on the agenda. Under the provisions of Arizona open meeting law, the town council is prohibited from responding to issues that have not been properly noticed. Therefore, the town council may only listen to citizens who wish to address them on non-agenda items. We do regret that we can't respond beyond thanking you for your comments or asking staff to put something on a future agenda. The town asks that when your name is called, you come forward. That'll be the protocol. We do ask that the audience member observes rules of decorum. We don't clap. If you really feel overly excited, you can do the wave. We don't jeer or shout down, or we try to retain decorum and be respectful of everybody's time. We will have 3 minutes is the standard for each speaker. There'll be a clock over here, and if there's more than a few people on one item, and if you want to designate a person to speak on your behalf, you can. But you can't give your time to somebody else. So if you do want to speak, it's 3 minutes, and that's the standard we'll observe for everybody. And if you indicated that you don't wish to speak, I'll just read that out loud. If you've changed your mind and all of a sudden you do feel compelled to speak, just let me know when I call your name. And we'll get started, and I'll try to have a couple people on deck since it's a long way down to the podium. So the first person is Allison Bones, and then the next person we'll have on deck is Amy Keller.
Good evening, Mayor Peterson and council members. I'm Allison D'Ambrosio Bones. I'm here as a guest of the Girac family of Gilbert, and I'm the founder of the nonprofit organization Team for Travis. Thank you for this opportunity to tell you about a rare disease, isolated congenital asplenia, or ICA. ICA means children are born without their spleens, which compromises their immune systems and leaves them vulnerable to life-threatening bacterial infection and sepsis. This month, I should be planning an eighth birthday party for my son Travis, coordinating the energetic chaos of 50 or so 8-year-old boys, like his friend Benjamin. And unfortunately, because of undiagnosed ICA, I will spend his birthday, August 16th, speaking to Senator Mark Kelly's office about legislation for improved access to genetic counselors. 9 days later, I will mark the 4th anniversary of Travis's death with friends and family as we watch the Gilbert Water Tower turn orange for Asplenia Awareness Day. Also on August 25th, that is the day that Governor Doug Ducey has proclaimed as the Team for Travis Asplenia Awareness Day. Although no test currently exists to detect ICA in the prenatal or newborn period, we are working to change that at Team for Travis. In the 4 years since he died, we successfully advocated to receive congressional support for federal legislation that will allow the newborn screening program to continue to expand. We've established relationships with the doctors and researchers who study ICA's genetic causes, and earlier this year, we were able to co-fund a $20,000 grant to one of the researchers who studies ICA in the mouse model, in the hope that someday we will be able to contribute to the creation of a test for this rare disease. Our future fundraising efforts will additionally help support whole genome sequencing for ICA patients and their families at the Casanova Lab at Rockefeller University in New York, and support the mouse model at the Solari Lab at the University of California, San Francisco. Our second annual Tee It Up to Fight Asplenia tournament will be at Top Golf in Glendale on Sunday, October 16th, and it will help us reach these goals. I'd like to invite you to visit teamfortravis.org to learn more about ICA and our efforts. If you happen to see your beautiful and historic Gilbert Water Tower lit orange on the 25th of August, you'll know it is because of a little boy with a magnetic personality and $1 million smile who was taken too soon, but his legacy will live on as we fight to stop this disease from taking other children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. After Amy, we'll have Joe DeBrato.
Hello, good evening. First, I just want to take a brief moment to thank you all that are sitting here tonight. I am so appreciative of the service that you have given. Many of you have taken time to meet with me individually, to attend events we've invited you to, and to support organizations that I'm involved in. And so I really appreciate your service, and that goes for the town staff as well. I want the public to be aware of a project that we're doing for our town Gilbert, which is an organization that seeks to bring together community members from different faiths and nonprofits and businesses. Next month, we'll be working on a school supply drive, and we appreciate Mayor Peterson's support for that. And so look for more information on that coming up through the town channels. Thank you.
Oh, Joe, I think, indicated he does not want to speak, but he is opposed to commuter rail. Next, we'll have Bessie Mantlick. She also does not want to speak, unless she's changing her mind. Stop commuter rail. Ron Kuhn will have next. You've indicated you do want to speak. Yes, sorry, I had indicated our initial speaker, I had actually indicated they did not want to speak. They had checked a different box. That was my mistake. And then after that, we have Megan Crandall, but she has not indicated whether she wishes to speak or not. So if you're out there, Megan, and you want to speak, just raise your hand.
Yes, Mayor and Town Council. I'm just here to, as you read my shirt, I'm just worried about what we're doing in my backyard there between Burke and Lindsay along the power lines there. So I'm just here to make you aware that I'm still very concerned and that I just hope it works out for all the residents there that are along there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Megan Crandall, guess you do not want to speak. Jennifer Crander, I have you indicated as not wishing to speak. Marianne Schwartz, I have you wishing to speak.
Vice Mayor, the people who are not wishing to speak, are they saying, are they for or against something? I just want to make sure we get that on record.
Yes, if, yeah, on one, they're written on different parts, so my apologies. Jennifer Crander, she says she's opposed to light rail. And then Marianne, I have you speaking. And then next on deck, we'll have Debbie Kuhn.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Even though the sound system is so bad that where I was sitting, I really couldn't hear what was going on. So I'm sure it's the same way now. But anyway, I am opposing the commuter rail. But we drove down Williamsfield to here off of Higley. And I'm going, what is this? I've never seen so many apartments and buildings. And it's like, oh, Cooley Station's right down here too. So that was quite insightful. But Gilbert, lighter rail, a commuter rail, no way. I don't want to see it looking like this right here. And I'm afraid that's what's going to happen. And I know what I keep saying about Mesa and Main Street. I do not want to ever see that happen to our area, even though I'm just seeing all the building around here, and it's just like, are you kidding me? Where's the water coming from? And again, I see all these buses that are going down the streets with 0 people in them, or maybe 1, if we're really lucky. How much do these buses cost? Who's providing them? So there's all these concerns, and I know I'm not the only one who thinks this way, but thank you for allowing me to speak, and just in shock of what we saw just a few miles to here. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, quick adjust. If we could just not have the clapping. I know it gets hard when we get impassioned, but it is important to observe decorum, and there are other ways you can express your approval of comments being made. Debbie, if you want to come down here, and next on deck, wishing to speak, Andrew Adams.
So my husband doesn't say enough sometimes, I think, and I know that I say too much, but I know that they're not allowed to say anything, but who's against the light rail? Okay, well, I make my case there. We're against the light rail. I'm also here to talk about this land grab. How many of you?
Debbie.
Your comments are to the council.
you?
If you could
Yes.
direct them to
All
us,
right, I
please, I'd appreciate that.
Thanks. So it's been a year, 2.5 years, I think, or maybe it's 20 months maybe, so it's maybe not, but it seems like forever that I have felt threatened that my home is going to be invaded, my backyard, my privacy. I have 4 horses, and I have a special needs daughter and a grandson that I have made provisions to give therapy, not to just to them, but other children and people. And it's my life to sing and ride horses. So you'd be taking half of that away if you tear down my barn. I'm being told that now Gilbert has no evidence that we drew a permit for the barn, so there's probably no plans to pay for any of that or replace it. And we're in construction, so there's no way we would build a block barn without drawing a permit for it. And so we're going to have to go back 27 years and find the proof that we drew a permit, because somewhere along the line Gilbert conveniently doesn't have it. But I'm terrified. I'm really scared, and it's just been so stressful. And on all the options that was sent to us homeowners, in all of them, my barn is moved. You can't move my barn. You have to tear it down. And I don't have I don't know what I'm going to do. And I don't want to break down and cry to you. I'd really appreciate it if you could work out a way that you don't move our property, that you can just be able to take some of the options where you get to the manholes. We'll let you in. All of our neighbors will let you back there. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Andrew, and then after we'll have Paul Schubring.
Hello, everybody. My name is Andrew Adams. Many of you know me. I'm a small business owner, and I am chairman of the Legislative District 14 Republican Party. My comments today are my own and do not necessarily reflect the entire sentiment of our legislative district. I come before the council today to quickly comment on 3 separate issues. First, I come to speak in opposition of the commuter rail. The commuter rail project in Tempe is a complete disaster. Where the rail exists, you see increased crime and loitering. The light rail makes businesses difficult in areas where it runs through and has become a home for homeless and drug addicts. We do not want these issues coming to our town. Secondly, on primary election day, I was assisting electioneers at different polling locations. During one of those shifts, I personally witnessed Councilman Scott September attempting to steal campaign signs from the ground that opposed his candidacy. The electioneers and I stopped him and made him put the signs back. Mr. September then left the scene before police arrived. A police report has been made, and multiple witnesses, including people that are here, witnessed and can corroborate the story. I am respectfully asking for the resignation of Scott September effective immediately, as this is not acceptable conduct from an elected official.
Please, if we could refrain from the clapping.
Third, I have been receiving reports from precinct committeemen in my district, and this is important, that the town council and mayor have been telling them that they are not invited to legislative district meetings for the Republican Party. None of you have ever tried to contact me or my executive board to try to attend a meeting, and I'm here to personally tell each and every one of you, you are invited to our meetings, and we hope to see you there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Appreciate it. We got to try and keep control in here and keep it a respectful environment and make things go way more smoothly.
Good evening, Vice Mayor.
Paul?
I appreciate the time. My name is Paul Schubring. Live on East Harrison Street in Gilbert. I just had kind of a follow-up. I read a story in the Arizona Free Press regarding that incident that Mr. Adams spoke of, and it said that there was a police report pending, and I looked and I have seen no follow-up on the Gilbert Town police side, so I was just wondering, is there a place to find follow-up and the status of that, and is there an investigation? And if so, who will be conducting that?
Thank you, Paul. I have Mary Ann, but I don't have a last name wishing to speak. Okay. And then after that, Michael Crandall on deck.
I come here tonight gravely distressed. I moved to Arizona 2 years ago. I moved my family mid-pandemic cross-country from Florida. My husband's a veteran. We have lived all over this country. I was a kid when I saw Temecula go from a single barn to the sprawling metropolis it is today. I have seen land grabs. I have seen commuter rails. I want to know what is going on in my city, the community that I finally decided that my family would move out of a travel trailer, invest in a home, that 2 years ago, this was never seen. I've only been here for 2 years. And in this time period, the land grabs I've seen are akin to what Orange County went through in the 1980s. I've seen where that leads. I was just a kid. There's a reason as an adult I don't live there. I've seen what happens to the prairie when the land grabs come for the farmer's land that we all depend on for food. I've seen what happens when light rails take over sleepy communities. It is not the community that benefits. It is not the citizens of that community or the taxpayers of that community. The taxpayers end up paying for it. Our children and their safety pay for it. Our grandchildren, our future as a community gets lost in the muck and the rubble that these systems leave behind. So I beg my city council, take into consideration and haul in our planning commission before we lose the community that we all here hold true. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ann. I'm really going to need cooperation on this. We're trying to keep the meeting orderly, and there is a good reason we don't allow clapping. We want this to be a respectful environment where everybody feels safe and comfortable expressing their opinion, opposed and support of whatever that is. And so that's why we try to maintain that decorum. And I do ask that if you want to speak, you will have your 3 minutes. I promise. Come and say your piece. But that will be your opportunity to express. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Mike Crandall. I'm a resident of Gilbert here off of Ray and Greenfield is where I live. I'm here to oppose the light rail. First, I was a little surprised that there wasn't the proposal for it. I'm not sure if that's already been proposed and reviewed and this is just the final meeting to review it or vote on it. I'm not sure what's going on. I heard about this late in the game. So I was really surprised about that. The other thing I'm really surprised at is something that is so huge that impacts our town so much does not come to the town for a vote. How come we can't vote on it? Why is it that a small number of people get to decide on something that's going to have a long-lasting impact on our town? And so how can we make it so that we as a town get a vote on these really, really large decisions instead of just a small number of people that have their own ideas? And a lot of time I feel don't vote or make decisions that represent the majority of the people. So I guess it's just a question you guys can't respond to, but I agree with some of what other people have said. Look at the buses. There's nobody riding the buses. We're not going to have any benefit to this light rail system. It's only going to be a negative impact, and it's something that once it's there, there's no turning back. You can't reverse that. And it's a huge cost. Look at the cost. It's a huge taxpayer-funded sinkhole is what it is. It's never ending. And I just hope that you guys would consider that, right? As representatives of the people, look at all these people. This is a fraction, I believe, of how many people really oppose it. And so please just listen and I don't know how we develop something that has to be brought to the people, but I think we need to get enough signatures or votes so that in November, we can vote on this as a community rather than a small number of people. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you listening.
Thank you. And we have Richard Young next. wishing to speak? And while Richard's making his way down, Kim Calentano, she does not wish to speak, but she's opposed to the commuter rail, as is Morgan Stradling, not wishing to speak, opposed to the commuter rail. And then next in line to speak will be Mario Chicos.
Morgan wants to speak.
Oh, okay, then Morgan will be next, and then Mario.
Sorry, I didn't wear my hearing aids. I wasn't entirely sure that I was due to come up. Prior to deciding to come here, I wondered what exactly could have made this proposition attractive to you people. Surely there were numbers, there were proposals, perhaps grants, something that made it interesting, possibly some woke fairy dust was sprinkled on it, something to make it attractive. But blow that away, and it is not an attractive idea at all. In fact, it's a potential disaster. If I can only use a metaphor. Imagine that you're building a pipeline for bringing toxic waste to be dumped into the middle of Gilbert. That's very nearly what you're doing if you approve light rail. What kind of toxic waste? Well, the products of woke policy positions, crime, filth, disease, homelessness, all of that. You think that the light rail is going to be used by Norman Rockwell types. It isn't. They're going to be afraid of it. Even as I was sitting here, the lady beside me said, ask them, have they ridden it? I'm not going to. I don't expect you to answer, but she rode it one time, and it scared her. There were crazy people screaming at her friends, and it was dangerous. She's not the only one who noticed. I just grabbed a couple of things here. This is from 1916, Montebello and Dunlap. The promise of growth and development along the corridor is overshadowed by unwanted guests along the rail lines. Victims of break-ins have reached out to ABC 15 News saying they believe the homelessness and transients are responsible for the increase in crime. New Times. If you've ridden the light rail, literally, ever, you've probably noticed that homeless people make up a large share of Valley Metro's riders. Fairly or unfairly, this has led some people to steer clear of the light rail altogether, and indeed they should. And a spate of articles with headlines like, North Phoenix residents blame light rail for uptick in crime. This is what you want to bring to Gilbert, because that's what it has brought to other communities in this valley. It is potentially dangerous, it is unhealthy, and once you put that pipeline in and turn the valve on, you can never shut it off again. You're stuck. We're stuck. We're stuck with the costs. We're stuck with what's going to come out of that pipeline, and we do not want it. I've not talked to any resident of Gilbert who likes the idea of this. And they have good reason for not liking it. There are crowds of these homelesses around some of the terminals, and the city of Phoenix is wondering, what are we going to do? Let's have an outreach. We'll move them somewhere else.
If you could wrap up your comment.
Pardon me?
If you could just wrap up your comment.
Can I wrap it up? Yes. Very quickly. What about, I said disease. What about disease? Well, how about typhus? That's one. It's appearing in the homeless camps. In Los Angeles, they have some experience with it. It got so severe, it actually made it into City Hall. It infected one of the prosecutors there, one of the city attorneys. Now they've had to talk about ripping out all of the carpets in there. It is a dangerous disease-bearing vector. Crime and disease. We do not want it. We do not need it. If you're going to build something big, build a moat. Don't build this.
Thank you. We got a pretty hearty stack here to get through, so.
Hi, my name is Morgan Stradling. I'm a longtime resident of Gilbert. I'm a mom of 3 kids, and I'm against the commuter rail. And I know a lot of people here are saying commuter rail and light rail interchangeably, and I know some people are against, saying, oh no, it's not a light rail, it's a commuter rail, it's different, but I think lipstick on a pig is still a pig. if you've been to places that have these commuter rails, I took my children to California. We stayed by a place that had the commuter rail that goes from San Diego to LA, and it was scary, and I will never vacation there again. It's just not safe. It's not something that we need for our community. I have stayed and lived in Gilbert because it's a family-friendly place. When people ask, what's Gilbert like? I say it's the land of families and puppies. You know, you can just let your kids ride or roll, you know, go across the street, go to a neighbor's house. It is significantly a different place than any of the other cities or towns around here. And I think it's really important that we maintain that and we keep that. And one of the things that makes us different is that we don't have the light rails or the commuter rails that some of these other cities or states have. And I think we should keep it that way. I think that's a differentiating factor that we don't need. If we need a commuter rail to go from Phoenix to Tucson and it happens to go through Gilbert, well, why don't we do a test program to see for 6 to 12 months, let's do a bus that goes there and see how often people use and take it. And I think that one will be one step to say, hey, is this a good idea or bad idea? And also I've read that the next step in this process is a viability study or to see, you know, is this feasible of the cost of $250,000? I don't think that's even needed. I think the people kind of have spoken and we know Gilbert doesn't want this, doesn't need this. It doesn't benefit our town. I'm wondering if there's federal money or some outsider money that's paying for this. And like others have said, once it's in, it can't go out and Gilbert will never go back. I'll have to move to Florence. Is that going to be the new Gilbert because it get away from all this? Maybe. So thank you so much.
Mario Chicas. And then next we'll have Jean Frakes and then Frank Carollo. Mario?
Can you hear me okay? Everybody hear me? First and foremost, I want to congratulate Mrs. Kaprowski on winning her election. Now you don't have to call me back. In 2015, Reverend Clyde Reed won a Supreme Court decision which stemmed in Gilbert. It was a town sign law case. Gilbert seems to have a problem with signs, specifically freedom of speech. So I want to address that here today. I think we all are aware with the First Amendment and what that says and what we're allowed. I understand there's code that also says you can pull your own signs down if you think it's not legal. I understand that there's other legalities to signs that have to have certain things. I recently ran a campaign in town, you might have heard, and so I got to learn some of those things. We are going to a runoff, more than likely, with Ms. Buckley and Mr. Spence. I would really call on the council to please allow the rule of law to be applied with signs. It gets heated, it's gonna get heated. I understand we disagree on things, but that's why we have to go by law. Moving on, I look forward to the report from the Gilbert Police Department that are awesome, keeping us safe as they're in this room now. But I can't help but think that it's a conflict of interest that they do the investigation. Right or wrong, indifferent, whatever. Mr. September was given a large amount of money as a donation from one of the unions of the police department. It's just facts. To me, that's a conflict and just something to think about. Also, as I said, I ran a campaign. Got broad shoulders. I can handle some of the stuff that was said at me, that was talked about at me. But what I took away from that is some of our government officials locally have no respect for us, some of the public. I was a possible employee of the town, possibly working with some of the people here. And the way that some people talked about me and also a sitting council member is full on disrespectful. And because I respect, I won't say further, but it's pretty easy to find. I was taught that if you want respect, you got to give it. You work for us. Give us the respect we deserve, and please listen to your residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean Frakes. And then I think Frank's on deck, and after Frank, we'll have Roy Morales.
My name is Jean Frakes, and I was here last time to speak against the commuter train. I was on Election Day handing out these pamphlets, which specifically brings all of the reasons against the train in Gilbert: crime, homelessness, increased taxes. They're some of the reasons. When I'm talking to people, I had firsthand accounts. One was a young psychiatrist of the town going in to vote. He said to me, "I understand and I absolutely agree with you. Most of my clients that I see are drug abusers. Guess what they tell me? We deal drugs on the train. That's where they're dealing drugs." So that's one person that I spoke to. Another lady I spoke to said, "I work at the airport. Since the light rail went down and it stops at the airport, I'm afraid to come back out at night to get into my car. There are homeless tents springing up in the airport parking lot, homeless people walking through the airport." That was a second firsthand account as I was speaking to people. Today, people are speaking all over the neighborhood apps. This came from a woman. Her name is Tabitha. "To all that don't know how ignorant it is to have a commuter train in any town, let me educate you. I used to work security for the light rail. We had many homeless, drunk, high, mentally ill, and criminals that rode that light rail all day. They ride it to different parts of the community, get off, and make homeless camps in those areas. Also, whenever they get off, they tend to make it their restroom. They use the water fountains on the platforms to bathe in, and they pee on the platforms, and they poop behind buildings or on the platforms. The crime rates have gone up in all of the locations that the light rail stops at. Gilbert does not need this. Also, I've met several people that were robbed while riding the light rail. The criminals tend to wait, get to the nicer areas to rob someone. They wait right before the next stop, then they rob somebody, and then they get off the rail and run. We don't need this in any more communities, let alone Gilbert. For all that want the light rail and drive up Gilbert to Main Park in the carpool parking lot areas and ride your light rail into downtown Phoenix, they're currently building an extension of the light rail into South Mountain. There is already a high criminal rate there in that area, and they will freely ride the light rail and usually get away with their crimes. These are like firsthand experiences that people have reported that I've seen. Before I came to the last meeting, if anybody watches the news, you will see what's happening in New York on the train stations. People getting mugged, pushed in front of the trains, and robbed. We don't need that in Gilbert. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Frank? And then Roy Morales on deck, and after that, Linda Rules.
Hi, my name is Frank Carolla, and I'm opposed to the light rail. It's going to obviously increase congestion, business disruptions. There's going to be more accidents. Pedestrians are going to get hit. You're going to have to increase the police budget because there's going to be invitation for gang members and the homeless to be on the light rail. And I think each and every one on the board should publicly state whether they're for it or against it and why. And like to see if there's any documentation or anything as far as showing a net profit at the end of the year as far as the light rail, which they're always operating at a net loss. So, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Town Councilman. My name is Roy Morales. I live in Gilbert. I've been here since 2019. I've been in the Valley for 30 years. And I can tell you from firsthand that I used to ride the light rail that going through Mesa. I had a car, took it to the bus stop, rode the public transit bus stop to the rail up in Mesa. And it's quite an experience. And it's not like the express bus that you take from one of the park and rides and takes you right down the street, downtown, and you're rubbing elbows with doctors and lawyers and professionals and cops, all the people of goodwill. But when you're riding the light rail, there's some sketchy parts of that light rail, and you have some really interesting guests, let me tell you that. And I can tell you that they camp out in those light rails from going one side of town to the west side and back because it's their air conditioning unit. So I'm not going to advocate for this light rail. If you bring it to town, you're going to increase crime. You're going to bring in prostitution. You're going to put more strain on our good fellow police officers because they're going to have to be attending to extraordinary things rather than watching the neighbors and the people of Gilbert. You got to put that in consideration. Number 3, you're bringing in federal funds, and they're going to have strings attached to it. Like Biden is trying to do with lunch money and trying to get us to call pronouns and gender bending stuff. They're going to do that with subsidies coming from the federal government. We can't do this. We have to stay independent. And Arizona has always been independent. We're not New York. We're not New Jersey. We're not Boston, who commuter rails is part of their culture. This isn't Arizona's culture. We're the rugged West. We're independents. We drive our own cars, and we want to keep it that way. So please, I'm begging you, we as your constituents are asking you guys to listen to us, not to the city people, not to the politicians at the state or the federal level. Listen to us. No to commuter rails. And by the way, that bridge, we don't need to be spending money on that bridge either. We're in a recession, we have inflation, and we have a federal government that's out of control printing money that's, I don't know what that's going to do to my child and my grandchildren, because we're taxing them. We need to be frugal with our money here in Gilbert. We need to be frugal with our money here in Arizona. We're the last stop. Please help us. Be frugal with the budget. Consider our request. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Roy. Linda, and next on deck will be Anna Van Hoek.
My name is Linda Rolls. I had no idea I was going to speak, so this is just coming from nowhere. But first, I want to let you know that I feel that my voice was stolen for the bond because I did not get to vote because you did mail-in voting only. And if I would have gotten to vote, many people like me, that bond would not have passed. So I want to make sure that I get my voice in on this. And for one, I used to ride the rail too when I worked in Phoenix. And I'm telling you what, it's nothing like sitting with somebody on the other side of the car and they smell so bad that you feel like you're going to throw up. And not only that, it's they have police come on, or I don't know, I guess it's the rail police is what you would call them, but they get on and then you see everybody else getting off. They are losing money because it is only homeless people that are riding them. So the federal funding, what good is that going to, I didn't even know it was federal funding, but that's not going to do you any good because it's us. I've lived here 25 years. This is my town, and I am disgusted with all the apartments. You have brought our values down. It is your fault all this traffic is here. It is your fault. And now you think you can fix it with the rail? Just stop getting your, I don't know, I'm sure you're getting money from all these apartments that are being built. I'm sure you're rich off of that. And I'm sure there's some people in here with their suits that you're going to get money from too if you build this rail. They didn't give me nice looks when I was up there. But no, it is your fault. You created this problem, and it needs to stop now. We have no place else to go. This is our home, and you're destroying our home. And this is your home. But that just tells me what kind of values you have. You would rather have money in your pocket than have a decent place to live. And then Scott over here, you're a grown man. And you're stealing signs? You got to be kidding me. You should not be sitting in that seat. You should resign. I would expect that from my 13-year-old, but not somebody sitting right here making decisions on where I live. You got to be kidding me. You should just pick up and leave now. But no, this is very frustrating. I've been frustrated with these apartments, and I'm going to tell you what, there's homeless people on the streets. All you have to do is go to Williamsfield right there. It's Williamsfield and Val Vista. We're going to see it all along the rail if you put it there. And I've got grandkids. And you know what? My grandkids go around the town. Do you really think that we're going to let our children on that rail so that they can be molested? You know, it's just, I don't know what to say, but you know what? I'm telling you, I wanted my voice heard this time because you stole my voice with the bonds. You did not let me vote because I had no clue it was only mail-in voting. And I was upset and I was going to file a complaint with the Attorney General, but that did no good because you know what? My son sat there after not living here for 10 years, got put back on the voter rolls. That had to be from Fontes. He says he enlisted all these people, but he took people.
Your 3 minutes are over, Linda.
Okay, well, thank you.
If we have one more incident of clapping, we're going to end public comment. And I really do want to give everybody their opportunity to have their 3 minutes. This is the forum, and we do this so we can contain a respectful environment and everybody feels like they can do that. But if we have one more where we don't respect a quorum, we're gonna end public comment. So please just let everybody have their 3 minutes. We are listening, we're going through everybody's names diligently, and you will have your 3 minutes if you want, and that is your opportunity to address the council. Anna?
Thank you. I moved to Gilbert in 2003 because of the small town feel and what I've seen happening in the last 12 years is ridiculous. And we need to stop. We already have enough panhandlers around Santan Mall, and this is just going to make it worse. And it's going to bring all the homeless from Phoenix to Gilbert and to Queen Creek. And I'm asking you to vote no on this. We don't want this for Gilbert. We don't want a California Gilbert. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Andrew Motlick. Andrew's coming from the back. So on deck after that is Jane Adams. And after Jane, we have George Momper.
Mayor and council, appreciate your time to hear our voices. I moved to Arizona in 1990, and I've seen this place change quite dramatically over that period of time. And I brought my family to Gilbert in 2015, and I've been in the Southeast Valley the entire time. And the reason why we came here is because of the small town country feel, yet living in the city, have access to the amenities that we need. And I have to say that I too, like many, as well as I'm speaking also for people in my neighborhood who weren't able to come here, as well as who don't want to get up and speak, but they share the same values and they share the same thoughts. And, you know, to see literally the destruction of Gilbert, what we are seeing and witnessing is a destruction of our way of life. And that makes me angry. And, you know, what the people here of this town, this is the town of Gilbert, not the city of Phoenix, not New York City. I'm from Connecticut. I've seen the destruction that happens when rails come through. I see what that brings. That's why I'm not living there anymore. I'm living here because I came to Arizona for all the goodness that Arizona has. But I'm seeing that being destroyed. And so, you know, we know that it brings, you know, just the traffic. we do not want to have the rail stop in Gilbert and bring all this extra, what, for what? We don't need this. So, and I just want to close with, you know, I think a lot of us understand why certain people want this to happen. And, you know, the Bible says that the love of money is the root of all evil. So, God is watching us. So please vote no on this to keep our community safe and no more of these apartments and things that are going to control, you know, destroy Gilbert. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jane Adams, and I live in Gilbert. I'm just here to oppose the commuter rail as well. This is my very first city council meeting, the very first one I've ever attended. And the reason is because I saw a sign, a yellow sign out there. Whoever put it out there, thank you, because it said that we were going to be voting on a rail system today, or that you guys were. So I just happened to see that sign. I don't spend a lot of time on social media or anything. It made me actually come here to ask you guys, please don't put that in for all of the reasons that the people before me have mentioned, because they're right on. You don't want it. I don't want it in our town. So thank you.
Thank you, Jane. George Momper, and then we have Nolan Baldwin on deck. And after Nolan, we'll have Ellen West.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First of all, I'd like to thank anyone who's involved in fixing the left turn lanes in Gilbert. Kudos, kudos. Thank you very much. It's done a lot. Anyone who's been to St. Louis, you cannot shop safely in the Western Mall, the shopping malls, beautiful places in western suburbs of St. Louis anymore because of the light rail. So what I'd like to discuss a little bit, maybe have some suggestions, is our bus system. They're empty. They're empty. And my wife and I, for years, have just sort of joked about morning, noon, evening, counting the live bodies besides the bus driver in the buses, and it's laughable. So, given that, under the green agenda, the buses that we now own in this city are dinosaurs. They will be obsolete within 5 or 10 years. I strongly suggest that the council, transportation manager, whoever's involved, consider selling them as soon as possible. Get rid of them. Make them into tiny homes. People will buy the things. So what I would like to see is some research done by people that know a lot more about it than I. Electric buses, hybrid electric buses, smaller buses that move out of the way of traffic quickly without a big cloud of smog behind them. And, you know, we like gold-plated projects, let's admit it. The light rail is not the gold-plated project we need. How about some electric buses we can be proud of, smaller, efficient, charge them at night when electricity is cheaper? But we got to get rid of these buses soon. This government we have now is going to force this city to get rid of them. So consider that in our transportation planning. One other thing, I'd like the council, whoever might be involved, to support when our corporation commission starts deep sixing electric facility project improvements, like they did south of the city, where there's a tremendous amount of development going on. Industry is moving into Casa Grande in that entire area. They proposed, SRP proposed 12 peak generators that would put online and taken offline, run by natural gas. It already exists there. They just wanted more than double the size of it. They deep sixed it. Our corporation commission, 3-2. I would like to see some support for that sort of thing. If we're going to promote electric cars, hybrid electric, anything, cars, buses, whatever, which is fine with me, we got to power them with something. So please consider that.
Thank you.
My name is Nolan Baldwin, and I live in Casey Ranches, too. I did that the first time I came, and this isn't my first time. You know that. It's been, December will be 2 years since we received a letter, 24 homeowners received a letter saying the city was going to take our property, the back 20 feet of our property. We kind of came together as homeowners and said, you don't need to take our property. The sewer line that has been there for 30 years can be fixed with some cast-in-place lining or cured-in-place lining, and that's still the case. From the very beginning, we have had this manipulation of numbers to show why they were taking our property, and even now, the current options, the one that they don't take our property is the most expensive. Why is that? Because it's the only option that includes moving the reclaimed water line. Now, if you can buy around the manholes and you don't need to move the reclaimed water line, why does leaving all the property necessitate moving the water lines? This has been going on for 20 months, and in the meantime, lots has changed. Most of you are still here, and that's going to change. And even some of our homeowners. We've lost one that passed away. Mr. Vic McLeave passed away. I don't know if anyone mentioned that in the meantime. I know at one time he was trying to sell, and because of this thing hanging over his property, I actually talked to someone walking the canal, and they, I asked them if they knew about this, and they said no, and they said, well, we don't want to get in the middle of that. And then Mr. Greg Davis, my neighbor, has sold and moved on, and his the people who bought that don't know much about it. I visited with them today. We would like you to, when you vote to decide to take people's property, remember your signs and your goals and the things that you say when you want to be elected. We are for neighborhoods. We are for taxpayers. We are for being transparent, those kinds of things. And consider, as someone mentioned tonight, the individuals that you are doing this to. And I ask you to think of that thing and what you can do that would be right to fix the sewer line, the water line, and the reclaimed water line. All three of those can be taken care of without taking anyone's property, and I'd ask that you do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Nolan. We have Ellen West on deck. Is Ellen still here? Oh. Carol Sherry.
Is this Ellen West right here?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Ellen.
We're so used to looking up there and looking straight ahead. We apologize. Thanks, Patrick.
Thank you. I've lived here for 22 years, and 21 and a half years ago, I went to my backyard and I started planting trees. And we built a chicken shed. We had some other outbuildings that are sheds to hold stuff that we gotta have. And with this land grab on Ocotillo to make 5 lanes of traffic and meandering sidewalks and meandering horse trails and meandering this, that, and the other thing, and with no heads up prior to it already being a done deal that it's going to happen, with the exception of now we've been told that there's some negotiating going on, and they're trying to come up with something less than what the original space was that they were going to take from our properties, which, by the way, would have a wall 15 feet from my back door. I have no words to say other than my life is ending. I've got a year or less, they say. I'm fighting cancer since 2011. I want my home and my garden and my trees to be my legacy for my husband and my son. I want somehow for you guys to figure out how to build a 99 minutes, I like that. How to build a road that accomplishes what needs to be accomplished. I've lived there. I've seen one horse in 23 years going down that road. I never see anyone walking down that road on either side trying to walk from one place to the other. This is not a part of the town where people get out and ride their bicycles on sidewalks or whatever. This is a rural acreage property, which, by the way, this will cut my house out of being in agreement with my zoning, which is acre plus. And my concern is that nobody has said, hey, how about just a straight sidewalk? Let's have a straight sidewalk right next to the road. Let's have a bike trail right in the roadway like it happens in many others where they've got that little 2 or 3 foot painted place. Put whatever pipes and things that you need under the ground, under the sidewalks, where they can be dug up when they need to be 1,000,000 years from now. Instead of breaking through people's homes and walls and tearing down barns that have just been given their permits to build, we have a neighbor who's literally had a nervous breakdown. Literally, no joking. They have just built a pool and a barn that has guest house and offices and everything else, all fully permitted, that have to be demolished in order for that road to follow the plan that is currently there. Whoever is trying to work with us, please, please consider if there's a little more room on one side than the other without touching people's property, use it. If the road has to jog over a nano bit, then let it jog over. We were ignored when this came up. No one in the town of Gilbert gave us a heads up long ago when all of this started. Not one person. We happened to find out about it because you sent somebody else to sell a line of garbage to us. And I'm fortunate enough to have my neighbor Terry and Eric Natty, who live across the way, who you will be hearing from today. They have been our mouthpiece with the town council. She keeps it a lot cleaner than I would. All I can say is, between this Disneyland-style bridge, which, by the way, if it was like every other bridge that crosses that wash, we would save probably several $1,000,000, which could go to helping the people of Gilbert. How about we spend that money on the people and the needs of Gilbert? Thank you for your time.
After Carol, we'll have Bob Shaha.
I'm Carol Cherry. I moved to Gilbert in 2007. Imagine being too afraid to go to a restaurant in Gilbert's Heritage District because of rising crime and homeless tents set up on Gilbert Road. That is a very real possibility, as evidenced by rail systems in other cities. And even worse, imagine raising our taxes to pay for this nightmare. I'm strongly opposed to spending almost $300,000 just to study 2 locations for a commuter rail station that may or may not even come to Gilbert. The projected cost of this rail is between $4 and $10 billion. That's billion with a B. With record inflation, the cost will likely be even higher. As a taxpayer, I can think of better uses of our money than wasting it on a train that, according to Elon Musk, will be obsolete by the time it's built, not to mention attracting crime and homeless camps. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. After Bob, we'll have Melanie Shaha. And after Melanie, Amy Hominen. That's a very difficult name. Sorry if I'm butchering anybody's name.
My name's Bob Sheahay. I live in Cooley Station South, and boy, I've made some friends tonight. These are some passionate people, and apparently this commuter rail is a bad idea, and I agree. I want to change the subject, though, a little bit. I live in Cooley Station South, and I know of two other communities, namely Agritopia and Lionsgate, at least those three, who 2 years ago, we suddenly found out that through some sort of technicality, we own our lot all the way out to the sidewalk, which includes, well, all the way out to the curb, excuse me, which includes the sidewalk, or what we call public easement, right? These sidewalks need to be maintained, and the city now, or the town now, expects us to maintain the sidewalk in front of our houses. I think the town council voted on this, so I think the town council needs to take another look at this, because it's your trees that you require to be planted that are busting up the sidewalks. So, you know, and you won't let us cut down the trees. We can't afford to fix the sidewalks because it's a cost to us. I mean, we see these millions of dollars being spent. Certainly, you can find it in your budget to maintain the sidewalks. Another unintended consequence of this is probably going to be with regards to the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, because people in wheelchairs cannot negotiate the sidewalks in our neighborhood. And you're going to have people tipping over in wheelchairs or having to use the street to get around. So I urge you to reconsider that so that this community can have their sidewalks repaired properly instead of done by us citizens who don't know how to repair sidewalks. Thank you.
I'm Melanie Sheahay. Glad to see you. Thank you for letting us speak tonight. I'm also speaking about the sidewalk issue. I think originally the builder laid out the plat so that he could say the lot was bigger. And the town required city sidewalks before the first certificate of occupancy would be granted. So none of those houses could be occupied unless the city had sidewalks in place that they were maintaining. For 11 years, the town maintained the sidewalk, which I would say is probably creating precedence that the town felt that they owned the sidewalk and should maintain the sidewalk. I wish the top fiscal priorities would reflect the most basic needs. Seeing the bridge here tonight, while beautifully designed, is probably not a top basic need. The new logo is not a basic need. I have a basic need of safe sidewalks in my neighborhood. School children use them to get to school. The elderly use the sidewalks. We all use the sidewalks, the disabled, as my husband said. So I hope that whatever change occurred 2 years ago, that the town reversed their policy of maintaining the sidewalks. I hope that that can be revisited. I think you shouldn't spend money marketing if you're going to be making the citizens and current taxpayers unhappy about living here. So I would encourage you to focus your fiscal priorities on the things that are basic needs. Thank you.
Amy, after you, we'll have Nikki Reber. And after Nikki, we'll have Leslie Nowak.
Hi, I'm Amy Holman. I live in Gilbert Lakes, and I'm here to just say how I feel lied to. I feel lied to by every yellow sign that I see that is for a variant to change zoning. I wrote to the mayor a year or so ago asking about all the apartments and how this is terrible and this shouldn't be something that should be going on. And I got a response saying that this was put into place 10 years ago and that that's just the way it is. Well, if that was just the way it is, then why do we have all these yellow signs and all these apartments and all these variant zoning changes that do not go with the plan that was put in 10 years ago? This goes along with the light rail. Why are we spending all this money? I started in Arizona. I'm from New Jersey. I see train wrecks, literally. It was all a train wreck. It was terrible. Every town that had a light rail, commuter rail, whatever you want to call it, it had crime and just disgusting areas. There were, as one person said, bathrooms, basically. Then I left New Jersey. I came to Tempe. Loved Tempe. Tempe was wonderful until they started putting apartments in every spot they could. Then the light rail came, or commuter rail, or whatever the heck you want to call it. Same difference. So then I left and I went to Scottsdale. Scottsdale, they started having apartments and apartments and apartments and apartments. And then guess what? That went to you know where. Gilbert was supposed to be my place, was supposed to be the safe haven. Gilbert was supposed to be the American dream. We all worked hard to get what we have now. We all struggled, and we're supposed to feel bad and think that other people should just get it and have it because, and that they should live in the town that we live in and worked hard to get to just because. If you want to live in a city, go to Tempe, go to Scottsdale. Why do we have all these apartments? Already I see them down in Santan. The building is stopped. We don't need all these apartments and zoning changes and all these things that are going on. We don't need it. The desire has stopped. The building has stopped. Please think about these things.
Thank you, Amy. Nikki. And then we have Leslie on deck, and then Roy Casto.
Mayor, Council, I'm Nikki Reber. I live at 1138 South Wanda Drive here in Gilbert. Y'all know me. I'm absolutely against this commuter train. There is a difference between commuter train and light rail. Now, when I first learned about this, I immediately put a notice on the Nextdoor app. It ran for 2 or 3 weeks because people kept commenting. I finally shut it down because it got nasty. There were people on there who said, hey, I'd love to have this. I used to live in San Francisco and we had it. I used to live in Portland and we had it. Well, you don't live there anymore. There's a reason you don't live there anymore. You didn't like it there. So don't come here and try to change Gilbert and make it what you had. If you're here tonight and that is your feeling that because they had it somewhere else, please go back to where you came from. We like Gilbert just the way it is. I do not want light rail. I've never ridden the light rail because I had a son and sister-in-law who rode it twice and said they'd never ride it again and warned me to stay away from it. I no longer go to Mesa and shop there because they put in light rail down Main Street, and I'm not going to compete with the light rail. I don't go to Tempe because I'm not going to compete with light rail tracks. Haven't been to Phoenix in years. I have no reason to go there. I do not want that stuff coming through here. That rail track that y'all will have to use is a 1/4 mile south of my property. I already have listened for years to the train coming and going. I've gotten used to it. I don't hear it. I do not need a commuter rail coming through. For those people who think that it's going to be a quicker way to go somewhere, it's not. Those are trains. They're not light rails. They're heavy and big. They're harder to stop, and they take a longer time to get them moving. So you're not going to gain any time at all. And if you're thinking it'd be great to take a trip from Phoenix down to Tucson, well, Tucson doesn't have any kind of light rail or anything down there. So what are you going to do when you get there and you get off the train, and now you got to have some transportation to get around Tucson? If you've never been to the rail yard down in Tucson, go down there and take a good look. That is not some place that you want to get on or off of a commuter train. That rail yard is not set up for this any way, shape, or form. And for it to go over to Phoenix, they're going to have to build a new rail place over there just for the commuters. My taxes are already going up well over $200 a year because of that stupid bond issue. And now I will have more taxes if you want to do this. And you already seen all these hands tonight. I think you realize that a lot of people around here that don't want it. Thank you.
We have Leslie, and then Roy Casto, and then Kelly Casto.
Hello, my name is Leslie Novak, and I live in Gilbert near the, in the Heritage District near downtown. So on December 2020 was the start of a journey that none of the 24 homeowners ever wanted to take, as it was then that the land we've been paying taxes on for many years was being seized to access sewer and potable water lines that many of us didn't even know were there. We were informed that we would only be offered a fraction of the value for this land. And after raising questions about the need to take our property, we discovered that a corridor and a pipe analysis had not been done, which revealed that this council blindly voted to seize the 24 parcels without vital and relevant information. In fact, when I brought that up to you, you were a little upset, Mayor Peterson, that I reminded you that you spent 20 minutes discussing whether or not to offer medical benefits to a future town employee for gender reassignment that costs about $100,000, $200 max. Yet voted blindly to seize property that would cost this town millions of dollars. That, in my opinion, is very fiscally irresponsible. So, which led me to lose confidence in this council's ability to govern our city and raise questions as to the real reason for the seizing of this land, as the pipe analysis later revealed that a liner could be fed through the existing pipes. Could it have something to do with that never-used bridge to nowhere west of the downtown area and the efforts of this town council to beautify that canal area? I am here to ask this council to end the year-and-a-half roller coaster ride that I and the other homeowners have been on and vote wisely on the option that would only take the property or use the property that has manholes on them. This option solves the utility access concerns expressed by Jason Montgomery. As a homeowner in the canal corridor, it is my belief that voting for the manhole-affected property acquisition is the most fiscally responsible decision that this council can make. And I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Council and Town Manager. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. I am also here to oppose the commuter rail. I know that there's a difference between the light rail and the commuter rail. Light rail is electric, and it's going to tear up every road between here and Mesa. Commuter rail uses existing lines. I'm still against it. I'm still opposed to it. The reasons are these. I wish I had my slides, but I don't have my slides tonight, so I'm going to have to muddle through these cards, so bear with me. The commuter rail is not going to bring any money to the businesses in downtown Gilbert or to Cooley Station, wherever the depots might be. It's not going to bring any revenue to those businesses, not going to bring any revenue to the town. In fact, it's going to do just the opposite. There's not going to be somebody down in Tucson who's saying, hey, you know what, let's hop on down to Gilbert and let's maybe go to Joe's or Postino's and have lunch, and then we'll come back tonight. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is just the opposite. We're going to see a lot of transients. We're going to see a lot of let's just say not so good fellows, maybe down in Tucson or even south of Tucson. I'm not saying Mexico, I'm saying around the world that are coming up through Mexico already. And this commuter rail is just gonna give them a superhighway from that area, Tucson area, straight to Phoenix. No, not straight to Phoenix. Kind of straight to Phoenix through Queen Creek and Gilbert. Because this doesn't just affect Gilbert. This affects Queen Creek, probably Coolidge also. So that's just a couple of reasons. Not only that, it's going to be a highway for criminals to get from not only Tucson to Phoenix or Gilbert, but just the opposite. That's a great opportunity to commit your crimes here in Gilbert, hop on the commuter train, and get the heck out of here and go to Tucson or go to another country. I talk way too fast. My family and I did many hikes up A Mountain over the last couple of years, and every day we went down there, A Mountain, as you know, is right next to the bus station and the light rail down there. Every day was homeless, every day was junk, every day was garbage, and almost every day we went down there, and I'm talking 40 times between March and April each year, last couple of years, either we saw fire department there or police there or both. So not only is it taxing the citizens because it's going to cost a lot of money, but it's taxing the fire department and the police department. And I see my time's getting short. Take a look at the current metro, the buses, and the light rail. Take a look at the ridership, very low, as many people have already said. So you're not going to see a whole lot of people there paying money to get on it and use it. I think you're going to see a lot of people using it just for the AC and for getting around for their crimes. Even if the feds try to force this down our throat, this might not be your decision. This might be the feds trying to force it down our throat. We don't want it. We don't want to pay the taxes. We don't want to pay the maintenance. We don't want to pay any of it. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
And for the record, your name, you didn't mention.
Sorry, my name is Roy Casto. I live in Gilbert at Cooper Manor.
Perfect, Roy. Kelly, you're next. And after Kelly, Michael Clark. And after Michael, Eric Natty.
Can you hear me? My name is Kelly Casto, and I live in Gilbert. I would like to thank the mayor, the vice mayor, and town council for this opportunity. Thank you for all you do for our town, and thank you for your service. My husband and I have lived in Gilbert for over 20 years, and I am an Arizona native. I have lived in Mesa, Tempe, Chandler, and now call Gilbert my home. I have also worked in Mesa, Tempe, Chandler, and Gilbert. My favorite is, of course, Gilbert. In the past 20 years, I have heard nothing about the commuter rail proposal until recently. Perhaps I was too busy working or too concerned about raising a family, but I was never aware of it. I have spoken with several neighbors and friends and family members who were also not aware of it. I suppose I figured that those in charge were taking care of town things and always choosing what was best for the majority of the taxpayers and residents. I am now aware of it and more focused on staying involved and proactive about what is going on in my town. This is my first meeting. I stand here tonight to voice my opposition to the commuter rail feasibility study, and specifically to the commuter rail itself. I am opposed to the commuter rail for the following reasons. During a recession, which we are in now, we should be saving money, not spending more of it. Any responsible household will tell you that. One can see what spending more money has done to inflation and our economy. This study is costly and should not be a priority. Number two, with costs in mind, this proposal will increase costs for each and every taxpayer through an additional tax. It will require massive subsidies for the operation and maintenance of the commuter rail, which will fall to the local level. The commuter rail is outdated technology, an ineffective way to manage traffic congestion, and studies show that ridership in public transit is falling. Ridership has fallen for many years, and there is no demand or need for this type of transportation. Just because we have the infrastructure at Cooley Station or we can build it in the Heritage District does not mean that we should. Everywhere a light rail is created, as you've heard, crime, homelessness, and panhandling are attracted to it. As I mentioned above, I have lived and worked in various cities, whether it's hiking a mountain in Tempe near the light rail, working in downtown Mesa near the light rail, visiting a sporting event in Phoenix near the light rail, one will find additional police presence because of crime. You will see the homeless riding all day or just hanging out near the light rail or commuter rail. You will find panhandlers as well, which are starting to come into Gilbert. We've seen that. I believe we need to do a better job of helping our homeless, especially our veterans, but riding the light rail or commuter rail all day is probably not the ideal solution. Finally, it's attached to federal dollars, and we know that comes with strings. So I hope that you will oppose this when it's time to vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, and then Eric Natty, and then Terry Natty.
Good evening, Council. Thanks for listening to me tonight. First off, I just want to say it was a blast running for council. It's an experience, that's for sure, and I am going to run again. So, but with that said, just a couple of real quick points based on a couple of things I've heard. Commuter rail, I'm from New Jersey. My dad worked on 50th and Broadway for years and years and years in charge of all women's apparel for Sears. Amtrak does not make money. The government has to bail them out every single year. So that's number one. The other thing on the sidewalks, it's a personal pet peeve with me. When I ran on my campaign, I said I wanted to basically change some, tune up some of our ADA policy. Along those lines, my daughter, my oldest daughter, is a quad. Okay, so sidewalks are very important for her to be able to get around. So when I hear about sidewalks buckling, which I know they do, and I know they have because my daughter tells me about it. So that's not too cool. During the campaign, I met a lot of people. And tonight, I just wanted to follow up with one promise that I made. You get out and you talk to all kinds of people. The two people I'm talking about are employees of Gilbert. There are bulk trash pickup people. I could have taken 2 rows of what my subject matter was going to be. I took the lighter side. Anyway, but this is true. These guys work so hard. These guys are working in the heat during the day, and it's hot at night. I would actually challenge you to even work maybe 1 or 2 days of what these guys do. Okay? There's a lot of these times where we have crews that are scheduled for 3 and 4 people, but there are usually only 2. So these guys are sweating their butts off. One of the concerns that they had for me was that when they get their uniform is what I would call the old wool uniform that the baseball players used to wear years ago. What they want to do is be able to go to dry fit, wicking type shirts, long sleeve shirts with the Gilbert logo on them. They said they would even do the laundry. And so my request to you is to keep a promise that I made during the campaign and ask you to basically make this happen. And that actually helps me say that I kept my promise to these people. And for that, I am done and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Michael. Eric, then Terry, then Caroline Loader.
Hi, I'm Eric Natty. I'm a resident by address of Gilbert. I actually live in a county island. I'm the husband of the mouthpiece, as Ellen said. So just to give you a little background, it may seem a little irrelevant. I'm a executive chef over a very large campus. I have 20,000 plus customers I feed every day and over 1,000 employees. So when I say that I know how to run a large team, it comes with some authority, okay? Y'all went on break for July. You apparently directed staff to work with us, those who live along Ocotillo, who are getting land taken, to direct them to come and work with us, find some negotiation. There was no communication. So if I go on vacation and I tell my staff, get this done while I'm gone, and I come back and it's not done or nothing happened, there's repercussions. I want feedback. I want to know what's going on. So we have not been talked to. Instead, what we've got is a failure of leadership, because that's what it is when it doesn't happen. Which I'm not surprised, because when my wife spoke with David Fabiano about, in a personal meeting about what was needed for this project, he misled her, told her that certain distances were needed by SRP and RWCD. Well, that was easy to fix. She just called our SRP and RWCD and found out they didn't need those distances. In fact, it was in most cases half of what he said. Then Teresa, who is in charge of community outreach, tried to withhold some public documents from us that were cards that were filled out during a meeting. I had to remind her about ARS statutes that said, no, those are now public documents. You actually have to give them to us. And then she volunteered, yes, here's where you go to apply for those. So no communication. We haven't heard anything about negotiating with us. And now my neighbors are complaining about receiving letters for offers on their property that say you have 30 days to deny or accept this offer, which is, I mean, come on, let's call it what it is. That's bullying, right? So now that seems pretty shady to me. So at this point, I don't have a lot of faith in any spoken word from anybody from Gilbert. So what I want to advise you is 10 days. Tell me what the plan is in 10 days. That's what I want to hear. And I don't want spoken word. I want an email, and you've got it. I know you do, because you've had several emails from my wife and I. During that time, in that 10 days, what I want you to consider is some cases here, because we're County Island. So there was a case that was established with Phoenix, Harnish v. Phoenix, where Phoenix lost this battle. They tried to condemn some land, which eminent domain, whichever you call it. It was outside their borders, and they tried to condemn it to make it a nature preserve. Okay, well, that doesn't seem to apply here, except for the fact that your plan that was put up for widening our road, the outer edges you want to take that goes into our property is landscaping. Come on, guys, you don't need it. Don't take it. Okay, consider this. Get back to me in 10 days. Love to hear from you. Have a good day.
Hello, y'all know me. Some of you do. I'm Terry Natty. I'm the mouthpiece. I've been called the mouthy one in my life too. I wear that badge with honor because I fight for what I believe in, and I really believe in this. But I'm going to talk kind of shotgun blast. I'm here mainly about the capital improvement project ST0990, which is the Ocotillo widening. In a past study session, oh, this is just allergies, by the way. I don't have COVID, anybody that follows me. In a past study session, you guys talked about the cost of things. And on relocating the sewer, there's an option that doesn't take any property, but it's the most expensive one. I have a great idea, brilliant plan. Let's not spend the money on the study for the commuter rail and use that money to put the sewer line where it doesn't impact people. The bridge. I saw on Facebook there was an option for 4 garish, outlandish, fancy bridges, but I didn't see an option for a plain one. You didn't give the community an opportunity to spend less money and not have all the things. We are Americans, and we love all the things. But guess what? We don't need all the things. Some of us don't even want all the things. I don't want 5 lanes. I don't want a bike lane. I don't want a sidewalk. I don't want a horse trail. But I don't get to make that choice. You do. Right? This is my home, but I don't get to make that choice. You do. The commuter rail is a single path. So it works for those that are on one point A or point B, but it doesn't vary. You guys want to get people around? I get it. I do. But is that the best option? There's a lot of people in here that say no. Your bus system that goes all over the place says there's no. Do something kitschy like the trolley buses. That people will ride because it's cute. You know, take them through the Heritage District on a trolley because that they'll spend money for, I believe. We've got the BART in San Fran, the L in Chicago, the subway in New York. all people have talked about this. My sister had a partial scholarship to Columbia in New York, and she gave it up because she was scared. Because where is Columbia? It's right next to the subway. Again, save money from, okay, one more thing. We all know that there's things that are federally funded, but let's be honest, federally funded is taxpayer funded, and your people are speaking. Thank you.
Caroline, and then after Caroline, we'll have Jenny Jones and Paul Hinkle. Well, there's some that haven't.
Hi, I'm Caroline Loader, and I live off of Val Vista and Williams Field. And my husband and I moved to Gilbert from Chandler in 2004. I've lived in the valley since 1985. I've lived first in Tempe, then Mesa, then Chandler, and now Gilbert. So I've seen a lot of changes through, what is that? Almost 40 years, 37 years? Can't count now. Anyway, we moved, we had a choice, we didn't have to move. We chose Gilbert because of, it was beautiful. In fact, the valley since I've lived here has changed so much. We used to have all the orange groves, they were beautiful. I used to drive out to my folks' house in Mesa from where I lived, and the temperature would drop 10 degrees going past the orange groves. They're all gone. Everything replaced by homes, shopping malls, stores, restaurants, everything. Everything just changing. But anyway, I'm rambling. My opposition is to the commuter rail. That's why I'm here. But I guess mainly it's an overall change I'm seeing in Gilbert. We did not move here to move in the middle of this big city wannabe thing. And that's what I'm seeing just in the last 5 years alone. All the apartments going up, it's ridiculous. Those people aren't gonna pay property taxes, right? They don't pay property taxes. We do. And I just feel we don't have a choice in so many things that are going on here. I had no choice with all these apartments. Do I want them? No. I just don't think it's fair. We just, as citizens, we should have a voice. And, with everything going on now, especially in our country, they're spending billions of dollars, our dollars too, and we don't get a choice. We don't get a voice. And that's what I'm seeing at the local level now too. I never was interested in politics until a few years ago. I started actually taking an interest, and all it's really caused me is a lot of depression, anxiety, and heartache. Just watching how nobody cares about us. Nobody. Everybody just wants our money. That's it. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline.
Hello, my name is Paul Hinkle. I live at the corner of Higley and Guadalupe. I'm a small business owner here in Gilbert. Been here since 2004. I want to thank you for letting me speak here tonight. That being said, I had a speech all written out and ready to read to you, but the citizens here in Gilbert have made such great points that it would just be repetitious for me to just say the things I was going to say. So what I wanted to say is I am opposed to the light rail, to be short and sweet about it. At this point, from all the things I've heard, I would like you to not just hear these people. We're appreciative that you allow us to come up here and speak. But you need to do more than hear us. You need to listen. Listen to us. You can look at me and you can hear me speaking, but you need to listen. All these people have concerns. You need to take those concerns into consideration. What I'm afraid you're going to do is just going to come up here, hear what we have to say, and you already had some predetermined thing in your head of what you were going to do. Oh, we let everybody speak, so we're good. Now you need to take what they're saying to heart. These are the people who elected you. You need to listen to us and understand where all these people are coming from. I don't have all the problems some of these people do, but we're a community, and we are there for each other. We're a town. We don't want a big city because we want that town feel. We want to be able to talk to each other and be there for each other. And if you don't listen to these people, then it's just going to get out of control, and you're just going to bring in crime and homelessness and everything else. So please, please listen to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. Mary Ryan, I don't have indicated whether you wish to speak or not. You do? Yes, okay. And then after Mary, we'll have Kelly Cly, and then Trish King, and then Anthony Accurso, and then Christina Accurso.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and Councilman. I'm Mary Ryan. I've lived in Gilbert for 28 years, originally from the Midwest. Married a native. My husband's family grew up in Palomino Acres. He and his 8 brothers and 2 sisters were sometimes late for school because the sheep were crossing the road. And so we've seen a lot in Gilbert over the 60 years that his family has lived here. And serving Gilbert as a teacher and as a volunteer, it really concerns me what's happening to the growth and the expansion, the rapid expansion we're seeing in Gilbert. And I'm here to oppose the commuter rail for all these reasons, but specifically the neighborhood I live in now for 15 years is a nice, beautiful, old school acre type property, which I never thought I'd be so blessed to live in an in-town acre, where I could walk to the library, I could walk to some of my children's schools, I could nearly walk to a grocery store from right where I live. And yet everyone knew the story of one of my neighbors just 2 months ago whose daughter was killed at the local Santan Apartments. I'm sure the Hansen family would have appreciated if more of some of that funding had gone into the safety concerns that Gilbert is experiencing. And the fact that a young girl at 19 could be shot at an apartment just down the road on Greenfield at those Santan Apartments is terrifying to me. I have raised 5 children in that neighborhood, and one is special needs adult, walks with me to the library every couple of times a week. We walk there to vote just last week. And I walk now with a bag and I pick up garbage off the street, not because I'm such a great person, but I'm proud of Gilbert, and I want my son to be proud of Gilbert, and for people to care about how it looks and what it means. But I am worried about his ability to cross the street safely, not for under his own steam, but just the traffic we see now right there at Greenfield and Guadalupe. It's horrendous. And it was just 2 years ago that my now almost 21-year-old twins came through the door stunned because they watched a young girl. She had just been hit crossing with her bike right across from Christ Greenfield Lutheran. And I thought for sure when the first one came through the door that it was my son. Something had happened to one of my kids. And then I realized they had to drive by where that poor girl was laying. And I thought, these are the real people we're concerned about.
These are why the money can't go to these bridges, and it can't go to things we can't sustain or don't need. It needs to go to what the real needs of the people are, and I appreciate your help with that. Thank you.
Hi, council members. I'm going to talk kind of loud because I couldn't hear what many, many people were saying when I was in the back there. My name is Kelly Cly, and I live in Gilbert. I came here today as one of the people, and I want to remind you folks where you get your authority. You get your authority from the people, and that's these folks out here. I came here actually to oppose the light rail, or whatever it's going to be. But I listened to so much stuff from these people that I have had no clue about that's going on in Gilbert. I'm 60 years old. My father and mother moved me here in 1979, the year I graduated high school. Gilbert was a dirt road. Gilbert Road was a dirt road. My father was a business owner. I've seen a lot of change here too. Unfortunately, a lot of the change I'm seeing is in the people who represent us. And as the people that put you folks in office, remember, your authority comes from us, and we can remove you as well. And it's enough, all these people crying and begging you not to take their land, not to fix their water. I honestly had not planned on saying these things because I didn't even know about them, but I'm really outraged that they have to come up here and think that they need to beg you. They don't need to beg you. You guys get your authority from us. Please remember that. And I want to know, where did the idea of the light rail come from? Who brought that to you? Was it any of the people out here? Where did that come from? And I want to know, on the questions that I'm asking you, where can I go to see your answers? Because it's one thing to stand down here and everybody can hear, the questions that we're asking, and you guys are looking like you care. I hope you do. But are you going to answer us? Are you going to put it somewhere in writing where we can see what what you're going to do? I want to know, does the town of Gilbert, if you put a light rail in, do you guys get money from the federal government? And if you do, where does that money go? Does it just go to the town and then we find some numbers to build this light rail? Is that what this is all about, money? Because that's what I think, and I think it's a whole lot of crap. I want to know where all these ideas about the water and the bridge thing that people are complaining about, who brings these ideas to you? Do you guys create these ideas? Where is this coming from? It's shocking to me. And why in the heck is this building so terrible? You cannot hear anything in it. I want to know also how any of these things that you folks are doing that people are really scared. One woman was up here crying. How does this benefit Gilbert, and how does it benefit the residents? And I hope you folks will take that seriously and answer our questions, not just listen, answer our questions. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor, Town Council, thank you. My name is Trish King. My family and I have lived in Gilbert for 20 years off of Lindsay, between Elliott and Warner, in a nice, quiet community. We are also concerned about the possible expansion of the current to Union Pacific rail line to be used as a commuter line in the future. And if I have misspoken about that, I apologize, but it is just a reflection of the fact that there is so little information out here on this topic, and we need to be informed. A commuter line will bring many more trains through this area, as they will need to run frequently throughout the day and evening in order to be an effective means of transportation. This in turn will increase noise pollution for our homes, likening it to the L train in Chicago. Those trains run through a station every 6 to 15 minutes during the day and every 30 minutes at night. And I can guarantee you, when we purchased our home, we certainly did not intend to live near a busy train track like that. As has been mentioned, there's so many concerns over the impact that this will have, not only on our property, but on our community and our town. So If this was put to a vote in November, I would definitely vote no. I sat in your previous study session prior to this meeting, where those gentlemen talked about the master transportation plan. And there was nothing specific talked about commuter rail during that. It was more of just a general overall guiding plan. But one thing that they mentioned several times was that they had done many surveys, and I'm just curious who participated in these surveys, because the only way I knew about this was through the Nextdoor app, as well as the signs on a few street corners. So communication has not been great about the proposal of bringing this forth, and I think that's why you see so many people here tonight saying, no, please stop, like we need to know more about this, and we need to stop it. Also, during the study session before this, you said 95% of the residents travel by car, which that doesn't surprise me. And bringing in commuter rail is certainly not going to change that percentage dramatically. So if this is something the town of Gilbert truly intends to pursue, I hope you will hold more informational meetings for the residents, especially for those of us who live near the tracks. I believe you are voting on that master transportation plan in 2 weeks, and I certainly hope you have heard all of the comments here tonight and remove this as an option. Thank you so much for allowing me to have my comments.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Anthony Curso, and I have been a resident of Gilbert for 15 years. I just want to highlight something very quickly. Recently, the mayor released an official letter from her office regarding this discussion that's been going on in our community about the commuter rail and the possibility of it coming to our community. And I'd like to highlight one particular line from that letter. Quote, "Expansion of Amtrak is an entirely federal decision and outside the authority and scope of the Gilbert Town Council." End quote. While it is true that this decision involves several different levels of government and private businesses, it does not solely fall upon the decision of the Town Council. And it does not solely fall upon the decision of the Town Council. There are several things that the council is able to do. Some of these things include the council can choose to not finance the study, design, or construction of transit stations within Gilbert that accommodate passenger rail or use town property to do so. The council could pass an ordinance saying that no Gilbert sales tax dollars or town resources will go to the maintenance or construction of any commuter rail. These actions would hinder the ability for passenger rail to be viable in Gilbert and insulate taxpayers from their inevitable financial burden. I oppose as is obvious, the implementation of any sort of commuter rail coming through our community. And I've spent my entire summer home from college doing research and talking with hundreds of Gilbert residents about this topic. Not one of them has been in favor of it. And I'm firmly convinced that this is a horrendous idea. I'd briefly like to reiterate some of the things that I said at the last council meeting, where you are spending our tax dollars on a feasibility study, and that shows that you are serious about the possibility of commuter rail coming through our community and stopping here in Gilbert. I'm here again to ask you to not spend a single dime on anything whatsoever with the commuter rail. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Christina Curso, and I've lived in Gilbert for 15 years. I want to thank everybody for being quiet, because I actually got to come and speak, because everybody did. If during my comments you agree with me, feel free to stand. On page 143 of your transportation master plan that wasn't talked about tonight, it discusses the commuter rail. So everybody can go on the town website and look at the master plan, and on page 143, you'll see an entire page on it. It has a visual that shows the light rail in Mesa and the commuter rail proposed to come through Gilbert. So it doesn't matter if you call it a light rail or a commuter rail, the proof is in your packets that they connect. And that would bring those people and those problems to our community. Now, while the federal government might have their plans, it's up to us to decide if they stop and get off in Gilbert, in Cooley Station, and in downtown. I say no. Last time I stood before you, I thought we should have some stakeholder meetings. I feel like most of you live in a bubble, so we brought the stakeholder meetings to you. And you're gonna have another 2.5 hours of public comment in addition to this 2.5 hours on August 23rd, because we'll be doubling the number of people who come, because we'll all be here. Because this is our town. I cannot reiterate the amazing things everybody has said tonight. I agree with every word. This is our town. The feasibility study that you want to vote on, whether or not it's tonight or the 23rd, there's not really any transparency around that. You know, we know that about a week before the agendas come out, but we were told it would be in August, so we're here. But it's not on the agenda, so we'll be back. It's important. The last line of this page says, which was done by town staff and consultants, Gilbert should continue to support and participate in regional commuter rail planning efforts and studies. No. No more. There's not much more I can say because it's been said tonight. I hope the bubble has been popped in the echo chambers that you live in, because this is our town, and we're here to take it back to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. I have 3 individuals who expressed that they did not want to speak. Ralph Romero, I'm opposed to the commuter rail. Carrie Piccarillo, no, I'm opposed to the commuter rail. And Angela Poli, also opposed to the commuter rail. And if I missed anybody, now's the opportunity to raise your hand. And if not, that concludes communications from citizens. Did I call your name? Did you get an opportunity to?
Did you put it in the card?
Did you fill out one of these forms? Oh, okay, maybe we missed what's your name? I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, we missed your card. If you can come down and speak and then make sure that we get a copy of one of these.
Brenna, you want to speak on an item later on our agenda, item number 22? That's not now. That's not now. This is communications from citizens. Sorry. This is the very first item on our agenda so far tonight. I'm sorry.
Sorry, we have 2 different stacks of papers here.
Did that conclude the citizens' communication?
Yes, that concludes communications from citizens.
Can I have some direction for staff based on some of the comments. Patrick, I know you don't miss much, but one of the speakers tonight Michael Clark talked about conversations that he had with some of the people who work on our bulk trash teams, who I appreciate more than anything that we have bulk trash here in Gilbert. A lot of cities and towns do not. And if there's something that we can do to look into that uniform issue to get them something that's dry wicking or something that's more appropriate for the activities that they have outside, is that something that you can look into and maybe report back at a future council hearing to let us know what your findings were? Thank you, Patrick.
Do you want to make a comment, follow up?
Please, thank you. Chris, could I ask you a process question? I fear that a lot of people came here tonight thinking that we had something on an agenda for the future or to vote on tonight. Because we don't, we're not voting or having discussions on light rail or commuter rail. How do we put that on an agenda to have a conversation with the public, when we're not taking any action on those two particular items, we are going to have a study session that talks about, should we do a feasibility study for the land use? But those other two topics aren't action items that we have any interest at this point, as far as I know. So I'm just trying to figure out, how do we have that public dialogue when we're not voting on a commuter rail or a light rail?
And to build on that, Councilwoman Telke, I think there was suggestions made so we could put agenda items on a future meeting that would, we obviously are going to study the issue that you mentioned, but if there was interest on the council to direct staff to explore some sort of resolution or ordinance, prohibiting resources from being used, at least from the local taxpayer standpoint, for commuter rail, that could be direction that we explore. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah, that's correct. That's one option. Another option, Councilmember Tilke, if you wanted to have a conversation with the council and the public, it could be done in a special meeting, could be called at a future date where you're able to have that conversation, maybe a presentation, and take public comment on that.
Thank you. I always feel uncomfortable when people come and talk to us and we're not allowed to say anything, especially on an item that it's not even on our radar. So thank you. I don't know if we're looking to do something on that tonight, but I just wasn't sure how to do it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's difficult when it's communications from citizens without breaking any laws, but it's difficult for us to say and ask staff to put something on an agenda that we actually don't want to discuss and don't want to vote on. Light rail and commuter rail are not topics that we want to discuss or want to vote on, but the public wants us to discuss it. So we're in a quandary there. So as staff, let's figure out how we can have a meeting that the public can hear that from us without going any further, because I know it's communications from citizens.
Well, Mayor, perhaps we still have the existing protocol. Maybe Chevelli has forms that if we get 3 council members to sign on to putting an ordinance such as that forward, or drafting something like that for consideration, if there's 2 other colleagues, we could do that. So if those forms are on hand, Chevelli, that would be great. Thanks.
Okay, we finished our communications from citizens and we need to move into consent, but I cannot sit here for another minute without having a break. We've been here since 4:30 and I definitely need a break before we move on, if that's okay with people. 5-minute break, please.
Kyle, he was right there. He's probably out in the hallway.
If I can get everybody please back to your seats and we'll get going for the next portion of our council meeting. We have a long way to go. Please. That was really quick. Very much appreciated. Thank you very much. And back to you, Vice Mayor.
Okay, for our consent agenda items, I only have item 12 being pulled. Were there any others that the council members wanted to pull? Nope. If not, we'll entertain a mass motion for items 1 through 11
So moved.
and 13 through 21.
So moved.
Vice Mayor, item 4 has been removed from the agenda.
Perfect. Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. Thank you. Does your motion reflect the minus item 4?
With the exception of item 4.
Perfect. Second?
Second.
All vote. And then item 12, I'll just be real brief. I'd like to vote separately on this, not because obviously we're invested in this line of service now, but I do recall when we were having this conversation about whether we were going to have the public sector take over what a private provider was providing, that we would need 6 ambulances to do it, and we weren't going to require more than what AMR was providing, and we're, not even a year into the service, and we're already purchasing 3. And so I'd just like to vote separately on this. If there are any other questions for staff or comments on the item, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
And that concludes our consent agenda.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Motion passed 5-2. Moving on to our public hearing portion of our agenda. We have items 22, 23, 24, and 25 on our agenda. I'll open the public hearing. I did receive public comment, I just have to locate it, on items 22, 23, and 24 and 25. Michael Kochka, item 22 is opposed. Michael Kochka, item 23 is opposed. William Rowell, number 23 is opposed. Michael Kochka, item 24 is in support of. And item number 25, Michael Kochka is opposed. Would the council like to hear separate presentations on these items? Or do one motion to approve, or motion for all 4? One motion for all 4? Can I have a motion, please? I'll close the public hearing. Can I have a motion, please?
Mayor, there's one public comment.
Oh, sorry, I do have public comment here. I forgot. I'm sorry. I forgot. We do have public comment here on items, so I'll open the public hearing, and I'll take all the public items for 22 and 23. I have Ryan Ramsey for item 22. Yes, you wish to speak? If you'd like to come down to the podium, please. Next, I'll have Brenna Carden for item 22, and then following Brenna, we'll have Michelle Osborne, all for item 22. Sorry about that, folks.
My name is Ryan Ramsey. I live at 17415 South Wrecker Road, and it's regarding the proposed storage facility that they're proposing to build there at Wrecker and Pecos. There's 3 entities on that street: me, SRP, Town of Gilbert. I'm a county island, and I've lived there for 28 years. There's some impact problems now with the beginning of school and the end of school every day when the high school's running. People pull in there to pick up little Johnny and little Susie and park all over that street and impact me from getting in there. My family uses that. The town of Gilbert uses that road for the well that's right there, and SRP has the substation there. right next to my house. And it makes it sometimes hard to get in there with a horse trailer or something, which I guess it's against the law to have a horse trailer, but I do. And I use it all the time, and I go in and out of my street all the time. And I feel like I don't want to be impacted to the point of not being able to come and go as I please. It looks like the proposed entrance for that facility is off of Wrecker Road, which is going to mean that anybody wanting to go in and use that are going to go in and out on Wrecker Road. I'm sure there's things that are planned that I don't know about for that, but for one thing, the intersection is not square. It's got to be lined up. If I pull out of there with a trailer, most of the time it falls off the curb when I turn right because there's not room to get out of there without dropping that trailer off the curb. Nothing was really done there to accommodate someone living down that road. When I moved there, I was all alone on 800 acres, and now I'm not all alone, which I understand that. That's progress. But I just, I know there's others that are going to speak on some of the issues as far as it being a two-story facility and things like that, and that is going to impact the folks who live in Santan Ranch more than it will me, but I think it's bad to put anything that tall anywhere around there. But my concerns are I just wanted to represent myself. Also, the high school kids climb that fence like a bunch of cats going into the neighborhood over there, kick holes in it. The police have been there many times. And I don't have a problem with the kids, but they do damage that block wall. And I just wanted to bring some of that to your attention. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Brenna Carden. Maybe Brenna left. I thought I saw her a second ago. I must have had the wrong person. Michelle Osborne. Just give us your name when you come to the podium, please.
Hi, my name is Michelle Osborne. I am a born and raised native of Arizona, lived in the city of Gilbert for 28 years. I love this city. It used to be known for the second safest city in the country. I honestly can say that it's probably lost that title, which is a rather unfortunate and sad thing. I'm talking about the storage unit. We live in Santan Ranch. My house is directly behind it. I have a swimming pool. I have a 14-year-old daughter. Two-story building wants to be built across it. Councilman September sat and listened to my family and I discuss this last time. I'm concerned for a two-story building being behind my property, having access to visualizing a child, being able to swim and enjoy her backyard. I am concerned as a citizen, the fact that a storage unit, which is a transient business, 110%, you are allowing access to people who do not live in this community. It can be anybody, so somebody from Phoenix can put their property in this. It is directly across the street from a school, and within the community of Santan Ranch is an elementary school. I ask you guys, and the storage unit, will anybody be checking for sex offender registry? Let's be honest, it's pretty big nowadays. I have a concern as a parent in my own community to see who would be getting a storage unit within that facility and being able to look into it potentially. I have an issue with, will creepy people potentially have access to being able to have a storage facility, a transit facility, let me rephrase that, being able to have direct correlation of being able to loiter or potentially hang out in their storage unit, because I doubt there is limitations of time, or they will be checking that while children are walking back and forth to school. Storage units, as the lawyer that came last time said, that it is a low profile, not a lot of people coming in and out, which is perfect for those types of people. We also have concern about well number 19. You have water is a topic that everybody likes to throw around, and concerns of will this type of build cause any problems of any kind of debris or anything getting into well water that takes care of our families. I would also like to showcase, here's a map, maybe you can see it, maybe not, my vision's not that great. Here is where our city, here's where our development is at. There is a 3-story storage unit right here, just a block away. Here's another one, here's another one, here's another one. That's a problem considering there's 14 within a 5-mile radius. There's 4 in a few blocks. I ask as a native, I ask as somebody who lives in this city, who's watched it come from nothing. I watched it from cows and cornfields that I ran around in as a child. Don't Phoenix my Gilbert. 100%. Don't Phoenix my Gilbert. And this is a major concern for pedophiles, for transients, for drug addicts. This is Gilbert. This is a community. This is full of residents, and if you do an aerial shot, there is not a single type of business like that. You are surrounded by neighborhoods, by churches. Not this. So I ask you not to. And Councilman September, you heard me last time. Honestly, all of you, this is important. This is our children. This is their safety. And they have also expressed that they will not be building a gate around it, which means from the access of their property to mine, if somebody is to come over my back wall, that is a threat. You are allowing transient people to be able to commute in dark alleys and come through where there is no access of anybody being able to see them behind my property and behind their business. Is anybody going to be monitoring that security? Is anybody going to be looking out for my backyard, my child, anybody else's children? Or somebody snatches them and drags them back there where nobody can see? These are concerns.
Thank you. Is Brenna Cardin here by any chance? Third and final call, Brenna Cardin. Okay, then I'll go ahead and ask, Adam, would you like to come up? Adam Baugh, would you like to come up and make comments about what we've heard from the residents, please?
Members of the committee, Adam Baugh, 2525 East Arizona Biltmore Circle. I'd love to just cut right to the point of some of the feedback I heard and maybe address some of the concerns. First of all, this property is already zoned commercial. It is a commercial category. It's long been intended for commercial since that neighborhood that she lives in was zoned. It was zoned at the same time with an expectation that activity would occur on this property. For whatever reason, it's been slow to happen, but now commercial activity is happening. This is the use that's being proposed. Under the present zoning, you can have a building as close as 15 feet setback from that next door wall. Our proposal brings the building no closer than 75 feet. So we're much further away than what you can build presently today under the zoning ordinance. The second thing, I certainly understand the necessity of privacy, perhaps with, I think as she mentioned, kids swimming in her backyard. As a storage building, there are no exterior windows for people to look out and to see into someone's backyard. So questions regarding privacy, regardless of the height, are significantly addressed with the lack of any particular visibility from inside the structure. I think I heard a comment or two about water safety because there's a water plant nearby. I don't see the correlation between what we're proposing and that concern. I think that facility is secured by its own means and mechanisms. Clearly, in our case, we'll definitely have security protocols, which include cameras and that are maintained and monitored. The thing that I like most about this, though, is if you have a commercial zoning already today, and if you were to build a commercial building, and that building would exist there, you would have loading zones, trash enclosures, rear parking behind that commercial center. The very same condition that she's fearful of with this development already couldn't exist with the present zoning today. The benefit of ours, though, is that we don't have any of the external impacts. There is no parking. There is no parking on the side between us and her house. There is no drive aisle between us and her house. There is no refuse containers between us and our house. It is a landscaped setback of 75 feet. And so I think we can even take a step further and even provide a connecting cross fence, so that way no one can penetrate in that area. So the view corridor is further away from her than the current zoning, and we can secure it so that that concern won't manifest. I can't even address the comments regarding sex offenders or transients because I deal with facts and reality, and that just simply doesn't align with what we're proposing to do today. This facility simply creates significantly way less traffic than what could otherwise exist with the commercial zoning that's already on the property today. I think for that reason, staff's able to recommend approval. For that reason, the Planning Commission was able to unanimously recommend approval. I think for that reason, we're able to make meaningful use of a property that's been commercially zoned for a long time, just failed to happen until today. And so for that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think we've been able to address the concerns as stated.
Mr. Baugh, I have a question, a couple, actually. Is this an all internal storage unit? So like you said, there wouldn't be any outside windows, but there's not outside corridors on this building. Everything comes from the inside?
Right, no exterior roll-up doors, no access from there's no storage unit access from the outside. You enter the building and then it's all internalized.
And the comment that Mr. Ramsey made about the ingress, egress off of Wrecker, you'll be obviously building a driveway into your property?
Yeah, so Wrecker Road is intended to be a public street. That's part of your street transportation plan long before we existed. Whatever was to be built here with the commercial zoning, it's expected they would have to do that roadway improvement. So we will be making a dedication to the city. I think it's 33 feet. We'll improve it and then have the obligation to do the curb, gutter, sidewalk, streetlights, et cetera. So that road will be improved, but whether I'm doing this or a yogurt shop, it still would be required.
And that would potentially help Mr. Ramsey enter and exit that property with his horse trailer. Yes. I know this spot well because people like to put campaign signs on that land, and so and you're shaking your head, Mr. Ramsey. So it is, I know there's curbs there trying to get in and out of there. It's kind of big curbs, actually, in that spot. So that will all be taken care of with this development, too.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilmember Anderson?
What's the height restriction in the NC zone?
Our proposal only lifts our height 5 feet taller than what you could otherwise do in the NC. So I guess the trade-off is by going 75 feet away, we're only going 5 feet taller.
Okay. The other question I was going to ask Chief Solberg, if he's aware of any crime statistics about storage units in town. Do we have any trends of any kind there?
He answered no. He has a microphone. Any other? Councilmember September?
Yeah, Mayor, I do. Adam, you mentioned that you'd be willing to install a fence to prevent access to the neighbor's wall, something, I'm assuming you would put it either right before or within the 75-foot landscape buffer. Is that something you're willing to do?
Yeah, I understand presently today there's a chain link fence around the property with barbed wire on top, which I don't even think is actually allowed by code today, but maybe that was old and pre-existing. That barbed wire fence certainly is a deterrent for anybody jumping over. So I certainly understand the concern from the neighbor that could now allow that to happen. We can simply install like an ornamental wrought iron picket fence, whatever the code will allow, 6 feet, 8 feet, that would connect our building wall to their perimeter wall. If you would be so inclined, I'm happy to add that as a stipulation. I think that would go a long way in addressing the area. So it's still open as a view corridor, but it would prevent any transient activity from occurring in that spot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baugh. That does definitely need to be a view fence because we don't want to create a no man's land between a fence and Mrs. Osborne's back wall either, because that could be that could create another big issue right there. So if you would be willing to do that, then we could discuss that here with the council. Any other comments, questions? Thank you, Mr. Baugh.
Thank you.
I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the council for a discussion and or a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve with the condition of approval of including the security fencing that would prevent access to the neighbor's wall that was mentioned.
a view fence, whatever code would allow, for the height that code would allow. Is that your motion, Councilmember September? Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember September, seconded by Councilmember Anderson. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you to everybody that came out for this issue this evening. We appreciate the input and the conversation and the discussion. Moving on to open the public hearing, moving on to item 23. I do have a couple of slips for people to speak. One gentleman I actually mentioned, he does not wish to speak, and he was one of the gentlemen that I mentioned during the public comment, William Rowell, who is opposed to item 23 on our agenda, and Mr. Jim Torgerson, if you'd like to make your way down to the podium, please. And Jim, you know the routine.
Mayor, Council, first I want to say you guys took 2 hours of pounding with a great deal of dignity. That was a long time. One thing I thought that was odd was thank you for allowing me to speak, because I feel that everybody needs to speak. But in this particular case, I want you to take a look at what the people that live here have been saying and how they feel that basically they're getting just waterboarded with apartments. And the difference that developers are shown to the average person. If I wish to turn my house into multifamily, I'd be laughed out of here. But somebody else gets involved in a project and they want to turn something to multifamily, it's almost a rubber stamp. I'm sure there's times here and there that it's a no, but when you're looking at up to 50 dwelling units an acre, that comes out to 392 apartments. At the Tyler rates, it's well over $10 million a year operating income. What that does on commercial is it increases the value of that property in an incredible way. It's a windfall. So as you grant this, and the impact is felt by the people around it, the people that own that property get a windfall. All of a sudden, that property isn't just neighborhood commercial, or in this case, it was regional commercial, becomes high-density housing, becomes 5 stories of prime real estate getting top dollar and the best possible loan rates in the country right now. And you've granted that, and you hand that to someone who now their portfolio has just exploded. They've bought it for X, and now it's worth Y, with doing nothing but getting a thank you and a pat on the forehead from the council. And the people that pay it are the people that were here complaining about this all day. And granted, there's property rights. If somebody has the right to build an apartment and they're a medium density apartment and 20 acres of it, you can't deny it. You can't take those rights away, but you don't have to reinstate, let's call it rights, to grant rights to somebody in this manner. The impact fees alone should be re-examined. What's happening here is a creation of wealth that nobody thinks about. But what if you sit there and all of a sudden, hey, I've got a piece of property. Can you rezone this for me, please? Oh, instead of worth $400,000, it's worth $4 million today. That's fantastic. This is what's happening. And the people that are bearing the brunt of this are the people of this community that are screaming about it. I'm looking at a project just down the street from me that's going to come up. It's going to be 352 apartments. We need to think about how we're impacting those people. I'm not asking you for doing anything but consider it, maybe blow it off for one meeting and talk about it. But give it some serious consideration as to what these people have to feel. I thank you for your time. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Torgerson. Mr. Both, this is your case also, if you'd like to come down to the podium and make some comments and discuss the process that this case has gone through over the past 2 years, I think it is.
I don't know if my presentation was able to be loaded and worth sharing? If it is, then I think that would provide some insight on what we're doing. Okay, very good. Thank you. I could see how maybe somebody who's not familiar with the facts may have a certain misunderstanding of what's happening.
Can I ask you to start and explain? I get this question a lot, so I apologize for interrupting you. Can I ask you to start by explaining the process that you've gone through with this project and how long it's taken?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of our residents don't understand that by the time it gets here to the council, that there's been years of discussion on projects.
Certainly. For the record, Adam Baugh, 2525 East Arizona, Biltmore Circle. I've lived in this town since '03. This is a corner I've passed many times, taking my kids to soccer at the ball fields right there off of Germain. This is a site that my high school friend in California lived 1 mile away from here. I've driven by this so many times. The LaSuere family's owned this for many years. My client's Thompson Thrift. Thompson Thrift is a commercial developer. Thompson Thrift is an industrial developer. Thompson Thrift is a residential developer. It's very rare to find somebody who has experience and qualifications doing all three. So when you look at a corner like this, 40 acres of land, zoned regional commercial, at the corner of a freeway, or not at the corner, but very close to a freeway, inside of a vertical height overlay, which is intended to have your greatest intensity of uses in the town, up to, I think, 90 feet or possibly more here. There's something about this corner that's special, that deserves a special project, that isn't like anything you've seen before. And so when someone comes to look at the site, they look at all the kind of things. Are there utilities? Is it annexed? What's the routes of access? What kind of dedications are needed? What improvements are already in place? What's the market look like? What's the employment right across the street? What are the traffic patterns in this area? Those are the facts that begin almost a 2-year study of this site. But before I came into this picture, there were other proposals. There was once a Fry's grocery store planned here, but because of the liquor license issue next to the school, it couldn't happen. There was a variety of different multifamily projects proposed across the entire site. And I think what's different about what's been considered before and what's being presented before you today is something that's unique to Gilbert that you don't see except for maybe 1 or 2 other places across Arizona, one being Kierland in Scottsdale. Let me tell you about what the Gilmore is and why I think it's not what Mr. Torgerson suggested. The Gilmore is a mixed-use project. The Gilmore includes 200,000 square feet of retail, 45,000 square foot grocer, 37,000 square feet of retail below residential lofts, almost 80,000 square feet of pads and buildings, and 3 different parks within this development inside of a retail shopping center that you do not see today. In the RC zoning district, it allows residential by right on top of ground floor service non-residential uses. That's precisely what's zoned, and that's exactly what we're doing. In the northwest corner, where there's about 7 acres or so that has no visibility to Melrose, no visibility to Germain, and no visibility to Val Vista, is the only area where we won't have that ground floor non-residential use because it has no economic visibility or has no economic viability on the ground floor due to the lack of visibility. So what we've tried to do is create exactly what your general plan calls for and exactly what your zoning ordinance allows. Tell me a retail project in your city that has a type of outdoor space amenities like this does. I can tell you, you have maybe the Santan Mall and maybe Agrotopia. You don't have many places where you see outdoor recreational area that's intended for a community benefit. Here in the top picture, you can see one of those spaces wrapped by 2-story restaurants on all 3 sides with a rooftop amenity. What a cool experience to be able to sit on a rooftop and look down and have your kids play in that little park area, or you can enjoy a glass of coffee or a meal out in that area. We've intentionally tried to amenitize this project so it's something unique that you don't see in Gilbert. Above that ground floor residential, you'll have 156 residential lofts. That's exactly what's allowed under the zoning today. And in the back corner, 144 apartment units on the area where there's literally no visibility from the arterial streets. We have more than 500,000 square feet of open space, which is far beyond what is required by the ordinance today. Just to kind of give you some components, the ability to bring office, grocer, sit-down dining, retail, shopping, service uses, lofts, and even residential is a unique mixture of uses that you guys always talk about having. We want to have these mixed-use environments. Well, this is the chance to do it on a property that's already intended for mixed use. It's hard to execute that because most people either build one phase or they build the other. Rarely do you find someone that's vertical that can build all of those 3 phases in one singular project. That's why Thompson Thrift is unique. That's what they've executed in Fishers, Indiana. They've been so successful with doing it that they wanted to create that. But the difference here is you have this opportunity to create a very kind of urban setting, particularly close to freeway, close to a medical growth corridor where there's an intensive amount of employment nearby. The pedestrian paths are key to this. Finding ways to link those blue lines from every single edge of this project so the retail and the residential live together, and it is able to be accessed through pedestrians and through routes of travel has been very intentional effort by staff. I love the fact that when this developer designed the plan, he created shade corridors along these pedestrian ways for the very purpose of creating walkability from the restaurants, from the retail to the residents that are allowed to live on this site already under the present zoning. Utilizing even the stuff behind the grocer, bringing in an office building potentially there between Campo Verde and there is a great utilization of a space that really doesn't have a good window to Val Vista. And putting the only singular multifamily from ground floor to top floor in the northwest part where it is not viewed from any particular major street is a great way to do smart planning. I think I'll just end up with a little bit like this. When you create a plan like this, you look to the general plan as a guide. What does the general plan want to see here? The general plan wants to see intensity. The general plan calls this regional commercial, your most intensive commercial district out there. Your general plan allows you to have residential here, particularly above loft residential. I don't know, short of the most recent epicenter project, that's been able to accomplish this. Maybe Kierland has been a great model and example that we've mirrored, but our own success is doing the Fishers district in Indiana proves that Thompson Thrift is very capable. This isn't easy to pull off. It requires significant effort. But bringing in 3 different open space areas that residents and guests can shop and linger a little bit longer gives the economic opportunity for these retail tenants more hope in surviving here. Brick and mortar's tough. Building mixed use is tough. But if you create an environment that's unique, that's different than the rest, that actually has built-in residential to help sustain it, that's how you create a mixed-use project. That's how you fulfill the vision of regional commercial, and that's how you fulfill the vision of what is a vertical height overlay. What's the point of vertical height overlay if you don't use it? So for that reason, I think this makes great sense, and it's consistent with what you'd like to see in this area. And up until now, I haven't heard any opposition to it. It's been well supported by staff, by the community, in the neighbor meetings that we've held, and everything up to today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. Any questions or comments for Mr. Ball on this project? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Ball. I will go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it to the council for discussion and or motion. Councilmember Anderson, oh, sorry, Councilmember Anderson had his finger up. He was getting my, do you have a question, Councilmember Tilke?
For staff. Could somebody from staff?
Keith? Thank you. I got it right. Not Josh, Keith. I keep getting the 2 of you confused. I'm sure I've heard other people do it too, so it's not just me.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Keith.
Hi.
Could you tell me, under regional commercial, what type of multifamily would be given by right for this particular property?
Mayor Peterson, Councilmember Tilke. So the type of residential that would be permitted by right in the regional commercial zoning district would be just exactly like Mr. Baugh explained. It would be the residential apartments or lofts above retail or commercial. That's it. That's all that's permitted in the regional commercial. So exactly what the applicant is proposing is exactly what the town or the LDC would permit in the regional commercial zoning district. You're welcome.
Keith, while you're there, for our general public's knowledge, can you explain the vertical overlay, please?
Councilmember, excuse me.
It's okay.
Mayor Peterson. So the vertical overlay district, there are actually quite a few of them throughout the town. There's 2 or 3 of them throughout the town. There's Cooley Station, you have this one, which is the Val Vista Medical Growth Area. So the vertical overlay districts, and a lot of them around the freeway system and the 202, are designed to provide that density and more intensity around areas of high traffic volumes and areas that where we want a lot of that high density commercial type of activity and business and office type activity to take place. So in this specific location, this vertical overlay district, which is a growth area in the town, the Val Vista Medical Growth Area, where we want the hospital, where the hospital is located, and where we have all of these medical offices. What it allows heights up to, I believe it's 90 feet, and with a plan, and that's by right per this vertical overlay. And if they request a planned area development, I believe they can go higher. They can go, I think, up to like 120 feet, if I'm not mistaken. But, and I could be wrong on that, but they can go higher if they receive approval from the council through a PAD as the tool to get that additional height. That's basically it in a nutshell. These are areas that were purposefully, I can't even speak, designated by the town for this higher vertical mixed-use type environment where we want that height and we want that density. Hopefully that's a good answer and that explains it. But the rail corridor over by Cooley Station is another site where we want vertical height and we want more density as well.
And thank you. I apologize because I put you on the spot. So.
Oh, no worries.
Thank you.
I hope I did a good job explaining and I didn't mess it up too bad.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff at this time? Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back to the council for discussion. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to draw the attention of the council to the staff report on this. One section in that report has to do with the water and how much water is being used by each of these uses as it's brought in. I want to let everybody know that this will become more critical over time, and I pay attention to that number because as we get into more water conservation efforts because of what's happening on the Colorado River, this will become much more critical to watch the uses and the amount of water that they're using. So keep an eye on that. The other thing I'd like to do is vent a little bit. We heard some discussion tonight about apartments, and we like to deal in statistics and data, and it tells us right now that in Gilbert, we are a single-family community. About 88%, almost 90% of our units in Gilbert are single-family units. About 11% of the residential stock are apartments or multifamily units. You want to compare that to any of the other adjoining communities, they're upwards of 30 or 40%, maybe even more. So when I hear about we're overgrown with apartments, please keep that in mind. I know that oftentimes you'll see apartment projects going up in certain areas. That's because, just as we heard, we're trying to encourage some density in certain areas, and that can look very imposing. The other thing that I heard tonight was if people want to live in apartments, go let them live in Tempe. Go let them live in Phoenix or Mesa. Are you kidding me? How many of us have lived in an apartment? How many of our children have had to live in an apartment to get started? This is not acceptable to tell people that they have to go live in a different community because you have a perception that we have too many units here. Where are the people going to live that are going to be our workforce in the new businesses that come to Gilbert? And they can't afford to put down even a down payment on a home in Gilbert. Where do they live? They're not going to live in Tempe. They're not going to live in Mesa or Phoenix. They want to live in Gilbert and enjoy the same quality of life that each one of us enjoy. I'm sorry. I just had to vent a little bit. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Anderson. I appreciate everything you said, and I think that it's important to point out that out of the multifamily, the 11% that you were referring to, some of that is townhomes, some of that is single-family rental homes that have to be designated as multifamily. I heard the comments about driving down Williamsfield through Cooley Station and the amount of multifamily that's there. That whole development was planned back in the early 2000s to be even more dense than it is today. We have actually lowered some of the density on those properties. And I know there's properties that will be coming in that will be lowering the density on some of those properties, not increasing the density. But if it's already zoned that way, it's already welcome to go into those locations in that manner. And it was mentioned that we don't need to rezone in certain locations, and we don't. That's actually very true and very accurate. But commercial is dying. Brick and mortar is dying every single day. We are seeing businesses closing their doors. And I'm not talking small mom and pop shops. I'm talking major national businesses that are closing their doors. And if you want to build a property the size of the Gilmore, that back acreage that has absolutely no frontage to anything will never survive as commercial land if you can't access it and you can't see it from Germain or Val Vista drives. That's just reality. So we have to find ways to plan the land accordingly between a school and an LDS, it's not a temple. No, the mission, the seminary. Sorry, thank you. It's getting late. My words are escaping me. There's a high school, there's an elementary school, there's an LDS seminary there. There's multifamily that is senior living residents, and you have to find ways to protect those from the commercial land as you're planning these projects out. And we look at everything and the whole big picture of every single project that's going to come into Gilbert. And I understand that people are taken aback by some of the larger buildings that they're seeing in Gilbert. But I agree with my fellow council member. We have to have a place for our police officers to live. We have to have a place for our staff in Gilbert to live. We have to have a place for our teachers to live. Right now, the rents in Gilbert apartments, I couldn't afford with the mayor's salary. I couldn't afford to live in an apartment in Gilbert with the mayor's salary. We have to keep that in mind. And that's not why we put more multifamily in, because no matter how much we put in Gilbert, it's really not going to lower those costs, because it's Gilbert, and it's an extremely desirable community to live in. There, I vented with you, Councilmember Anderson. And we are still the second safest city in the United States. Oh, we're third safest city in the United States. Out of 19,000 cities and towns in the United States, Gilbert's third. Yes, that's a great accomplishment, Chief, so thank you for sharing that. Any other comments, or would somebody like to make a motion? Completely closed. Thank you, though.
I'll move to approve item 23.
Motion by Councilmember Kaprowski.
I'll second.
Second by Councilmember Tilke. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you all very much. Next on our agenda, item 24 and 25. I don't think that I don't have any public comment other than the ones that I mentioned at the beginning of public hearing. I'll open the public hearing on these two items. I would entertain a motion, close the public hearing, entertain a motion from the council for both.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes 6-1. Moving on to our administrative items. We have our council administration, which is the consider approval of the council meeting schedule for calendar 2023. Any comments on this, or would somebody like to make a motion?
Mayor, I'll just bring up the comment I made last year, and that is that the meeting, some of the meetings are the day after a holiday, and I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that the council feels and staff feels that you have enough time and you're getting a response, since the office is closed the Monday before we have our council meeting.
Thank you, and it took that into consideration as we were making the calendar, and unfortunately, some of those dates are also breaks for schools and other situations, and so to not have two council meetings back-to-back in cases, which I think is even harder on staff, we opted to go with the weeks that we would have a Monday holiday. I think we did a great job. And I think we have less meetings listed for next year, and my purpose was this. I don't want to put meetings on someone's calendar and then have to have them canceled and somebody doesn't realize it and they don't realize that it's been canceled and it doesn't come off their calendar. So I would rather have us have to schedule an extra meeting if one is needed at some point in time. Any comments, or somebody like to make a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Next, boards, commissions, and committees. Any comments or reports from council liaisons on our long list of assignments?
Yes, Mayor, I have something tonight.
Sure.
So the Planning Commission has an opening coming up, and so I want to encourage anybody who wants to get involved in the community to apply, and we look forward to seeing those applications soon and considering them for that position.
Thank you, Councilmember Uess. We voted on that tonight for the resignation of a member. Councilmember Tilke, did you have something?
I do. I'm just not sure if this is the right place, so.
Do you want to save it till communications?
Can I do that? It's not really an event, but I can then?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you.
We'll go to communications, report from the town manager on current events.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council listening tonight.
Nothing? Wow.
That's a first.
Report from council on current events. Councilmember Tilke.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to mention that I have an opportunity to meet with what's called the powwow. It's the Power Ranch HOAs, and they come together every quarter, and all the schools are there. We had our police department represented, planning, Ava was there every time. And anyway, it's a great opportunity where we get to give an update on what's happening in the town, but we also talk about issues that we can work together within the HOAs. And so I know that they're a very big group, and we don't have that many big groups around, but I just would like to encourage that perhaps there's opportunities for a council member to meet with groups of HOAs in the future to just give those updates and also address some of those issues that they have within their own community. So it's just a good opportunity. Thanks.
Any other comments from council members? No, then report from the mayor on current events. Final election results should be out, I'm thinking tonight, but I haven't heard anything yet. And we will need to talk about scheduling a special meeting. We will need to schedule a special meeting next week. I would imagine that that meeting will be held on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, because this council must actually canvass the primary election results. And we will also be passing out election certificates to those that have made it through the primary election. The other thing that we have going on is August is Drowning Impact Awareness Month, and yes, August and Drowning Impact Awareness is purple. We had this conversation earlier. Gilbert Fire and Rescue Department has responded to 7 water-related incidents so far in 2022. Please follow the ABCs of drowning prevention, adult supervision, barriers, and classes. Drownings are silent and can happen at any age. And On Thursday, August 11th, we will do the official swearing in of our new fire chief, Rob Duggan. The crowd was not here for you and you're swearing in tonight, Rob Duggan, but we will be here on Thursday for you. That's all I have. We are just going to adjourn this evening's meeting. Thank you all for your time.
Mm.